it was the other things that came along with that were the most surprising.
Right.
Right. It was suddenly I had energy again. And, within a couple of months of beginning that journey, I was out in my garden and overhauling my garden and spending hours in the yard where I couldn't have like hardly, you know, picked up a garden tool before then, right? It was going on walks with my kids and not being that mom who couldn't get off the couch. And so going and doing stuff with them. And then, within that first year of us moving and me having quit at my job, I mean, I saw more of my husband in that first year than in our first 16 years of marriage.
Hi, and welcome back to Old School. Today we're going to have as our teacher in class, Holly Andrews. She's the author of Heal Your Stress from the Inside Out. Those of you who follow me know this is a big topic for me and that I talk about that very thing and how it impacts all the areas, the emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical, and how it interacts. And that's exactly what her journey included, is how stress is so interconnected between not just the physical and the emotional and some of the other areas, but also how physically we manage it or how it manifests itself. So we have so much fun today to talk about and hear her thoughts and how her journey has gone. And that's what we do here at Old School, is talk about those various journeys. So this was a pretty exciting time. It was great to hear her thoughts, and I think you'll enjoy this as a class today. So let's welcome to class Holly.
Basically, I have been, I am that type A personality. I was the valedictorian. I'm driven, right? The Enneagram 3, you name it, like that's me, any which way you want to label it, right? That's who I am. And that's great on a lot of things. But what that ended up looking like for me was putting everything that I had into my job. Right. And so over the course of, call it 10 years, I used to work for the National Security Agency, and I worked my way up through the ranks. I was always like, what can I do to get that next promotion? What can I do to get that next recognition? What does that next award look like? Right. And I left it all on the table at my job and wound up having very little left over for my family. And as the kids came along, I became that mom that like I couldn't get off the couch on the weekends. I was quite frankly angry. Like my kids remember me as angry mom when they were little because I was just overwhelmed, exhausted, and that resulted in angry and yelling and parenting from the couch. My husband is an airline pilot, so he's gone half the time. So all of that, working 40, 50 hours a week, trying to juggle logistics of the family and the kids, and then not having two brain cells to rub together to even think about what was dinner going to look like that night. For me, emotionally, that looked like angry mom, but physically, that looked like 350 pounds. And I was in a lot of pain physically, aside from the emotional stuff. I went through a bout of severe depression about 10 years ago. Thankfully, came through that. But anyway, all of that led up to 2019. And I had a crisis. We took the kids to London for spring break. It was their first international trip. And I love to travel. So and I've lived overseas. I'm no stranger to all of that. But just this year, like walking normal touristy stuff had me coming back to the hotel in tears, just from how badly I hurt. And I knew at that point, like something had to give. Something had to give. And if I didn't do something about my physical health and what was going on throughout my whole body, because you're right, they're connected. And I didn't really understand how connected they were at the time, but I just knew if I didn't do something about my physical health at that point in time, I probably wasn't going to see my kids graduate from high school, much less college, get married, right? So I started working with a coach, and over the course of like 15 months, lost almost half my body
Oh,
weight.
wow.
Sorry.
No worries.
Um, Lost almost half my body weight. And that started a whole journey from there over the last 6 years of health and physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, what all of that looks like. Healed a lot of things, healed the relationship with my kids, healed the relationship with my husband. We had become like, honestly, ships passing in the night. Like, and it became all about the logistics of where do the kids need to be and when, and who's done homework and who's had a bath, and, all of those things.
Sure.
Um, and all of that eventually led to 2021. I was an executive in the federal government. I was leading big projects, but it was killing me.
Right. No
Really was.
stress at all.
This, no stress at all. The stress of the whole situation was literally, I mean, it was, I knew that like something had to give. And we talked about moving over the years to various places, or like, could we move? And I finally looked at my husband and I said, I can't do this anymore. I said, I think I need to resign. And he said, let's do it. He said, let's do it.
Maybe he
So
had a little angry mom there too.
he knew I needed a
Yeah.
change. And so I wound up resigning in 2022. We moved from Maryland to North Carolina. I stepped into my own health coaching business and got fully certified health coach. Realized the connection as I was going through some of this training. Realized the connection that the stress had on me was so much more than just people think what stress is.
Oh,
It had affected me on every level. Um, from inflammation to brain fog to the fatigue to the anxiety to the exhaustion. I mean, it just permeated throughout my whole body and my whole life.
sure.
And so I started to make those connections, and that's when I wrote my book, Heal Your Stress from the Inside Out.
That is, everybody who's followed me on my social media or on Old School here, that is the ultimate of my story. Okay, the Lord called me to write my story, and it ended up splitting in two parts of a memoir, and it was a lot of abuse throughout, from birth through the end of my marriage. And everybody always kind of hears the physical part. I was beaten, I was sexually abused, all these things, but they just genuinely don't understand the impacts on other parts of their life. And so my story was told in seasons of time, but also broken into the emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical. And they are so incredibly interconnected. And I recently did a couple episodes. It was split in two. The first part was testing, and the second part was the results. This local chiropractor who is a believer, who believes in the way chiropractic was originally founded, which wasn't just a production line of cracking people's backs. And he had done the x-rays, but also a nervous system test. And it was so enlightening. I knew that what my stress and my wounds were impacting me physically, and definitely on a cellular level, because there was some fear from my childhood. There was a bunch of other stuff.
Sure.
But, like you talk about the cortisol and the stress, and anyway, to see it on a screen, what inflammation was throughout my body. And I'm 63 and I feel pretty good. I don't have any other conditions, but I have to look at that as a condition
Mm-hmm.
that needs to be
Absolutely.
addressed. You can't sit with that kind of inflammation in your body and not have it like break you down. And I can only imagine. I mean, and people probably would get excited by your story initially for woohoo, she lost half her body weight. Okay, I want in. I want to hear from her. Just starting there, which is awesome. That is not something to be trite about. But the
Yeah.
interesting part, and I would imagine you would say this, is that that was the least of it. Like what it did
Exactly.
for the rest of your life, and quitting that job, I'm sure,
Yes.
were the best emotional, inflammation calmers. I'm not using very good terminology today, but anyway, I would imagine that is the case, is that not?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, the weight loss was great, and I'm forever gonna be grateful for that, right? But it was it was the other things that came along with that that were the most surprising,
Right.
right? It was the suddenly I had energy again, and, within a couple of months of beginning that journey, I was out in my garden and overhauling my garden and spending hours in the yard where I couldn't have like hardly, you know, picked up a garden tool before then, right? It was going on walks with my kids and not being that mom who couldn't get off the couch. And so going and doing stuff with them. And then, within that first year of us moving and me having quit up my job, I mean, I saw more of my husband
Mm.
in that first year than in our first 16 years of
Oh
marriage.
my.
And we go on lunch dates and,
Oh, that can't
we
be
get
giving.
weekends
I
together.
mean, the amount of oxytocin and dopamine and all of that good stuff that just comes from that, that heart connection. People just don't
Yeah.
realize. I live by myself. My
Yeah.
daughter moved out, and I'm so happy for her. But
Oh.
I tell her, please come by and hug me for like 20 seconds
Yes.
periodically, or I'll be like a house plant that doesn't get any care.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, the relationship with my kids has been healed. The relationship with my husband has been healed. Even my friendships, right? I still have a lot of friends that are still working where I used to work, and my heart goes out to them.
Right.
Right? I know what they're going through, and I pray for them constantly because I can't even imagine still being there.
Well, and some
And
people don't. I'm divorced. I don't have another income. I work as in accounting during the day, and I have a lot of Christian author friends and creatives online that don't well, I've never met in person, but I love every one of them. It's almost some of them are even closer and check on me more often than people here with skin on. Or well, they have skin on
I know what you mean,
locally.
right?
But anyway, every one of them it has, well, not all of them. Some of them are single or divorced, but have a support system that can allow them to quit. Like some of the people at your former place of employment, I mean, I guess they could stop and try and go get a different job, but maybe they can't stop the job a job at all.
Right.
And it's so hard, and how wonderful that you do have your husband and that those relationships have been mended enough to, I would imagine, even again, just those things, and they're not little things, make your coaching business flourish.
Yeah, I mean, my husband was phenomenal, right? And it was a big leap of faith because most people don't realize that especially when my husband started flying commercially, he graduated with his degree, all of his degrees and licenses and everything like that in December of 2001. That was a terrible time to be trying to get into the airline
Yeah.
industry. So it took him 5 years. He didn't start flying commercially until 2006. And back then, salaries for pilots was really terrible,
Oh, wow.
really terrible. And so it took up until that point when I was ready to resign for him to even kind of match me salary wise. So all of this to say, when I resigned within the next year, God did things, and now his income has completely replaced mine,
Is that's how he works.
right? That's totally how he works. And so, yes, my coaching business is wonderful and I love it. But you're right. I had a support system and I also had a big God.
Yes, absolutely.
I had a big
When
God
he calls us to
who,
something, it's just he's been my provider my whole life. And I had alimony and this and that, and every bit of it stopped in February of this year. And I
mm,
never doubted because the job I have, and the people I work with in my bookkeeping have all come from provision, divine intervention. But it's so funny because I was telling, I wrote it in my blog actually, that the last check for alimony from my ex, it was in February. And when I signed the back of it, and you know how you can take a picture now and deposit it, and I went to stand over it to take the picture, and the Holy Spirit very clearly said to me, now 100% of your provision is just you and me. And it's not that he didn't provide through my ex-husband, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But it was overwhelming. I sat down and started crying because I write about in my book that both my father and my ex-husband said out loud and made me feel like I wasn't enough and like I would not survive without them. And so this was a very huge thing. And then the ball just kept rolling. He kept asking more of me throughout this year to get the second book done. He's asked me to do deep dive healing retreats with some major follow up with folks so that they can understand how I've been healing in all these areas. So every bit of God is who I'd rather stay in. Lisa Turkhurst used this term in an Esther Bible study I did recently. She was quoting a gentleman, Thomas Keller, I think was his name, that we're born into the middle of the current of God's will. And I love water and think it's so healing that I love the idea of standing there and having a current of his will washing over me. And I just need to listen.
Right. Yes.
And sometimes that's hard.
100%. It is.
Sometimes I'm 63 and he's just now got me where he wants me.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yes, at least it happened before I
Exactly.
left this mortal coil.
Yes.
Okay, so I love that. I love the title of your book, Heal Your Stress from the Inside Out. Now, by that you mean a lot. I know you don't solely mean this, but you do mean through what we're eating, our gut biome,
Hmm.
those kind of things. So without giving away the
Yes.
farm, and so people will go buy the book, like maybe what's like 2 or 3 steps that you could give out that show kind of where you head in that journey.
Right. Absolutely. So I think the first thing that people really have to realize is that your gut and your brain are connected in ways that most people don't really understand. And I certainly didn't. Gut health and gut microbiome, those have been buzzwords for 10 years. And I used to think, oh, that's just woo woo, right? Like that's just, you know, and I found out real fast it's not.
They're just trying to get me to
Um,
buy supplements.
exactly. They're just trying to get me to buy whatever they're selling. Well, yes, and yes, and it really is a thing. It's like there's a thing called the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal gland axis, right? And there's this two-way highway between your brain and your gut. And things like 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut. And serotonin is your happy hormone, right? It's one of them. And at least 50% of your dopamine is made in your gut and other neurotransmitters like that. So if your gut is not in a good place, those hormones are not being made and they're not getting to your brain. And then that looks like brain fog, anxiety, depression, all of those things, right? So that's where I want people to really start thinking about, okay, how do I feel? What am I feeling? Like just stop. Just stop whatever you're doing, right? Because that's another thing. We don't stop. At least people like me, we don't stop,
Right.
right? And so it's like sit down, take a breath, or maybe take 10.
Yeah. Go for a walk, maybe even.
Go for a walk. And I have a stress audit in the book
Oh, nice.
that helps people walk through what is actually stressing them
And
and to
being
what
honest would have to be, I think we're careful about that. It's
absolutely.
kind of like when you pass people at church, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm great. And you might be limping at that moment. So really? Are you great?
Yeah. No, I mean, you do have to get honest with yourself for real. I mean, in terms of especially what is exactly stressing you? How is it stressing you? And then how is that making you feel? Like, are you feeling the mental effects of it? Are you feeling physical effects? Like, are you bloated? Are you exhausted all the time? For me, spiritually, it manifested in like what I'm calling like a 10-year spiritual desert,
Sure.
where I still believed that I've never lost my faith. But the best prayer, I mean, the only prayer I could get out was just, Jesus, help me,
Right.
which is a great prayer to pray if that's where you are. And he certainly will. But there was nothing deeper. There was no relationship building happening. There was no seeking. There was no being still, for goodness sakes. Right.
Or listening for
So,
the answer after you ask.
or listening for the answer. Exactly. So, so using that stress audit to get real with where you are, and then seeing like what feels most important to you at this moment to address, right? You can't address all of it at once.
Sure.
So what is it right now that needs to be addressed? Is it, is it sleep? Is it just getting your water in? Is it, because if you're already stressed and you're dehydrated, that dehydration causes your cortisol to spike even more.
Right. It's a hamster wheel. It just really
It
keeps
is.
a crazy cycle of like dominoes falling. I follow quite a few health nutrition folks that are kind of leaning into where I feel I am. I call myself a ketovore because I'm keto
Mhm.
and carnivore, kind of whatever. And I've done my research. I'm a science geek about that kind of stuff. But what's interesting is the purists out there who
Mhm.
almost feel like they're chastising people when they're on a podcast or something. And I'm like 90%, and I'm probably low, of this world is either out of shape, malnourished, or out of shape, like Western diet out of shape and fat.
Yeah.
Like, do we need to be purists and like chastise them because they don't go from zero to carnivore? Or can we maybe give them some actionable tips to start doing the little things like, okay, this week I'm gonna increase my water. That's gonna be my
Yeah.
goal. Because if we make people do all in one, it has been hundreds of years that we've realized that people aren't going to do that. They're not
Yeah.
going to do even 10 things all at once well. Let's talk about what makes the most sense. And a lot of people, I love when they say things like, well, if you don't pay now, because a lot of stuff is expensive, if you don't pay now, you'll pay later. Well, that's true, but paying later in the mindset of somebody who's broke is insurance. Insurance
Right.
doesn't cover the healthy side, so I'd love to see us address that somewhere. But why don't we talk about what is absolutely free that people can
Mhm.
do to at least like start that motivation and start that inspiration? And then they're going to be at the point where receiving information, getting a coach, getting a gym membership
Yeah.
and stuff will start to become more, hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell my clients and anybody, you know, pick one thing, do it consistently, not perfectly, but consistently for 2 weeks. And if you can do it consistently for 2 weeks in the place that you're in right now in your life, then you know it works for you.
Right.
Because your best friend or whoever can tell you the latest, greatest, whatever that they're doing. But their life looks completely different than yours does.
Absolutely.
And their body is completely different than yours. So if it works for them, that's awesome. And I will tell you, like, for about 4 years as I was beginning my coaching journey, I fell into that, like, this thing worked for me and I knew it's going to work for you.
And you
Right.
have to do it.
I, I fell into that. Very well intentioned, but that was just, like it was finally something that worked for me. So therefore it was magic.
I'm really zealous. My friends, I'm sure, I know they get frustrated and think I come across all know-it-all-y, like, no, this is what the data says about nutrition or about this or that. But the fact of the matter is, it has to be sustainable for you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't matter how great it is.
Yeah, exactly. So, as I'm working with people, I help them come up with things that one, work for them. Two, what is it that they can like, I'll go back to the water, for example. Like, how do you help people remember to drink water? Some people need an app. Some people just need a big water bottle. Some people need rubber bands around their water bottle that they can take off or put on as they've drunk, a bottle's worth. I mean, it's totally individual. And so that's what I really focus on working with people, coming up with what is actually going to help them to do the thing, whatever that is. So back to like the free things, right? Dim your lights after 7 p.m.
Yes.
Mimic natural sunlight outside,
Yes.
right? Dim those lights. That's free and that'll help with your electricity bill,
Right. Right.
you know? Um, get outside first thing in the morning
Right.
for 5 minutes,
Ground.
whether it's
Breathe.
exactly ground, whether it's sunny or overcast, it doesn't matter. Just go outside.
Yeah.
Drink your coffee on your porch, your deck, or, whatever it is on your front stoop. Just get outside in the morning. That's totally free. Put your feet on the bare ground or touch a house plant. If I don't recommend people going and putting their feet on like grass that has been chemically sprayed and all of that, right? Or touch a house plant, something to connect you with the earth. It sounds woo woo, but there's real science behind
There
that.
is. And you know
You
what?
know,
And you have to be, my guess is when people start searching for a coach or when they genuinely understand, maybe they don't understand all the components of stress, but they're like, okay, whatever I do or don't understand, I just can't stay here. This doesn't
yes,
feel good anymore. I mean, we feel our inflammation every day. It's just a lot of people don't realize that's what it is. They don't realize that
exactly.
it's coming from their food, it's coming from their job, it's coming from their environment. And I think once we start to have that realization, and so this over information age has some great things about it, I think that help
Mhm.
bring to mind for people. Some of it, it does, it gets overextended. Like there's the biohackers that are out there and you're just like going, whoa.
Yeah,
I can't do all of that, and then I
yeah,
say there's the people over here, there's like 0 to 10. I think it's okay if we're taking the baby steps towards the middle. The more we can get away from
absolutely.
food we can't pronounce, the more we can get away from stuff in a package or a box, just little
Yes.
things. Yes, and absolutely. I think water, breathing, and walking. These are the
Hmm.
first three free things that you can absolutely do. And I can't put a percentage on it. I'm sure there's a study out there that could, but I can't even imagine how that would impact people because I know what it does for me. I have walking every morning as a prayer walk. So I don't have
Hmm.
any negativity of the world. I'm not even having negative thoughts about my schedule or whatever. I get up, I start the coffee, and then I walk around this really gigantic part of my cul-de-sac. So it's not a big long walk, but I'm trying to
Yeah.
help cortisol, stress, and just
Yep.
kind of and then using it as a prayer time brings both emotional and spiritual kind of calming for me.
Yeah.
And then I get back and then I have the coffee.
Yeah. That's a great way to start your day.
That's
You know,
it's
that's a phenomenal way to do
It's
it.
worked for me. I know I should probably walk further because I know what that's done for me before, but as opposed to not walking at all, it goes back to kind of, even though it's
Yep.
free, we do have, when you have schedules, you don't want that thing to turn into what drives more anxiety because you got to get back home
Yes.
and do whatever. It needs to be something that's in a
Exactly.
comfortable space of time that works really well.
Hmm.
And as it starts to get darker, later and earlier and blah, blah, blah. And I'm by myself, you just got to find what you can and what fits in a life.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
I think your book sounds amazing. And I use at my first season with Old School, I used to get the book from my guests and read it all the way through before they'd come on. And I was exhausted.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I can imagine.
So then I started in season 2 getting the book and like getting to read a chapter or something, or finding what interested piqued my interest and have that conversation. Now I'm getting people so fast and furious I'm not able to get the books at all before I have them on. But I am very interested in getting your book. I really enjoy this topic. My friends will tell you I get overzealous, I get very know-it-all-y. I just am all in because I love people and I love what I found out and I want them to know.
Yes.
But so this is great and I can't wait to get the book and then maybe reach out and have you back on for further conversation. It would be fun.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love
So
that.
what I do with every one of my guests, I ask them their nugget. What is the one thing you wish you knew or someone had told you sooner?
I think the one thing I wish someone had told me sooner was that stress does impact everything. And stress in small doses, that is how our body is designed.
Mhm.
Like we are designed to have stress reactions. Like God made it that way. Like to stop our car, break our car when we are about to be in an accident. Like that is good stress. But when it becomes chronic and every day, all the time, and you can't turn it off, that's when it becomes harmful. But if I can give an analogy, well, it's not even an analogy, it's a true story. My daughter, we sent her to counseling, but before we sent her to counseling, because she was having some ADHD symptoms and all of that, the counselor asked to meet with me. And she was talking to me about what was going on when you were pregnant with her. And I was telling her, mom of a 2-year-old, pilot wife, full-time job, like, and she goes, "Oh, that explains it." I said, "What do you mean that explains it?" She's like, "All of that stress, all of your stress hormones transferred to your daughter." And my mind was blown because nobody had ever told me that. Like, we know mom provides food and nutrition and all of that to baby, but nobody ever tells you that those stress hormones go to that baby too.
Right.
And that can result in things like ADHD and other, issues and things like that. So just realize, especially for women, right, stress penetrates every single facet of your life. And you know, it's not just in that moment.
Well, it's cellular, and just like, those are coursing through our system, just as if somebody were a drug addict or smoking or
Exactly.
drinking alcohol while they're pregnant. And but you're right. I think we're not, I don't know if the word raised is right, but we don't, in society, we just don't think about things that way. You know what I mean? We only think about like those externals as having an
Yes.
impact on a life that we're growing. And yeah, I would think that kind of constant inflammation would do something. The baby's going to be
Oh, yeah.
born, just like they can be born addicted to some drug somebody's been on. They're born into inflammation. That would be, I mean, my daughter had eczema, which they said was genetic from her father, but you know what I mean? It's not a skin disease. People think it is. It's
Mhm.
not. It's her
It's
body's inability to
it's
digest
inflammation.
and so forth.
Yep.
So yeah, that makes total sense, and that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I agree
Yeah.
fully that yeah, that I've always said to folks, I'm an Enneagram 7, so I'm looking for the next joy ride while avoiding
Yeah.
pain, which was a mechanism for me my whole life. And I talk about there's good anxiety, like a first kiss,
Hmm.
a first date, a
Yep.
new job, all of those things are great. But if you're somebody who operates on rev every day, I mean,
Yeah.
like I have to stop myself. I work through different mechanisms because I can find myself finishing my morning prayer time, sitting there with my coffee, all of a sudden, okay, so next I have a podcast episode to record, and I've done 100 of them. So why am I getting whacked?
Yeah.
And then, oh, I need to make sure the trash barrel's out. Well, why are you whacked about that? And why are you even thinking about what you have to do this evening as opposed to staying where you are? So, that it's like you said, when it gets nonstop, it's like I'm a sports car, and
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
sitting revving, but I'm going to ruin the engine if I don't
Yeah.
stop.
Well, you can get addicted to stress just like anything else,
Yes.
and you don't even know it, right? And your tolerance level just continues to rise. And so I realized that is exactly what happened to me, and I didn't know how to stop at that point.
I have the cortisol, you know, bun to prove it.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
getting better because I'm working on it, but nonetheless.
I have permanent stress fractures in my teeth
Oh my, oh, from clenching or grinding or whatever.
from the
Yeah.
stress.
I've had dental people say, "Do you grind or do you have TMJ?" And I go, "No, I clench, but that doesn't help. I mean, we have really strong jaws. That's how we were created.
Yeah.
And so you're just going to
Yeah.
create problems." Well, this has been delightful. I've enjoyed getting to meet you, and I will be sure to let you know when everything's all coming out, and everybody will have all
Okay.
their connection information to get your book. I think it'd be so valuable to every one of my typical listeners and the people who reach out to me. So I'm pretty excited for this to air, and I wish you very well with the book and with your coaching.
Thank you.
It sounds like you're
Thank
in
you
a
so
beautiful
much.
place now.
Yes, yes, I am. It's been an honor to be with you today.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to have you. Okay. I want to thank you for coming to class today. How much fun and how much great information, and doesn't it make you want to run out and get her book? Heal Your Stress from the Inside Out. I will have all the connection information in the show notes. I highly recommend it because what she was talking about in the gut brain connection, the whole cellular connection, so just even inside just the physical realm, is so important that we get a grip on that, but also that we can understand some of the simple free things we can do initially and get that motivation and that hope once we get started on that journey to then be able to take some bigger steps. So I hope you enjoyed what's happened here today and what you heard, and you go out and get the book. Leave her a review on Amazon or reach out to her. Her connection page and her coaching page will be in the show notes. So we would love to hear from you and what you think of how it's going, and any engagement. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. And thank you so much for coming to class today. Class dismissed. This episode of Old School with Michele Vrabel is brought to you by Skin Beautiful AZ.